Welcome back, Creator. It's time to go over our introduction with part 23 of the Master Key System. So, this is our first time going over this. So, if you're still with us, thank you for watching. And for those of you who have just joined us, let's go in and see what this part has in store for us. So, introduction. In the part which I have the honor to transmit here with you, you will find that money weaves itself into the entire fabric of our very existence, that the law of success is service, that we get what we give, and for this reason we should consider it a privilege to be able to give. We have found that thought is the creative activity behind every constructive enterprise. We can therefore give nothing of more practical value than our thought. Creative thought requires attention, and the power of attention is, as we have found, the weapon of the Superman. Because attention, remember, keeping your thoughts focused on that specific thing. Okay, remember how we talked about the power of attention and concentration, how they use it, or they what is this word I'm looking for? They compare it to a magnifying glass with the sunlight, okay, because, when you focus the sunlight on a given a specific point, you can definitely see the effects it will have on whatever it is that ray of light is focused on, okay. Likewise with your thought, okay. People who are, remember, we are what we think about, okay, and we do what we think, okay. We need to focus and concentrate our thoughts on a specific purpose or a goal which you want to see come to pass, because as we focus on it, we move our energies into that direction and we start taking action towards that area in our life. Attention develops concentration, and concentration develops spiritual power, and spiritual power is the mightiest force in existence because it is a vibration, being the thing which creates all other things. This is the science which embraces all sciences. It is the art which, above all arts, is relevant to human life. In the mastery of this science and this art, there is opportunity for unending progression. Perfection in this is not acquired in 6 days, nor in 6 weeks, nor in 6 months. It is the labor of life. Not to go forward is to go backwards. Okay, remember, growing. Okay, it is a process. Learn to grow. Okay, learn to love to grow, because it is a process that we do every single day. Okay, because as we are involved into our daily lives and then society and just the way things are, okay, it's going to pull us into how that thing is. Okay, but when you really want to create something for yourself and you really want to bring something new into this world, okay, you're going to need to think a little bit different than the thoughts that are already happening out there, okay? It's called innovation, okay? It's called being different, okay? Don't be afraid to think differently than other people. Don't be afraid to do things different. It is inevitable that the entertainment of positive, constructive, and unselfish thoughts should have a far-reaching effect for good. Compensation is the keynote of the universe. Nature is constantly seeking to strike an equilibrium. Where something is sent out, something must be received, else there should be a vacuum formed. By observance of this rule, you cannot fail to profit in such measure as to amply justify your effort along this line. And that is the end of our introduction, so let's go ahead and get started with the main chapter. So part 23. The money consciousness is an attitude of mind. It is the open door to the arteries of commerce. It is the receptive attitude. Desire is the attractive force which sets the current in motion, and fear is the great obstacle by which the current is stopped, or completely reversed, turned away from us. Fear is just the opposite from money consciousness. It is poverty consciousness, and as the law is unchangeable, we get exactly what we give. If we fear, we get what we feared. Money weaves itself into the entire fabric of our very existence. It engages the best thought of the best minds. And since we're talking a little bit about money, okay, I want to talk a little bit about our book, Think and Grow Rich, okay, because he talks about obtaining that money consciousness, that riches, okay. Money is shy, okay. It is something that you need to attract to you, okay. Like you bring it towards you, it's something that you need to lure in. Okay, once that thing comes to you, okay, you need to provide a type of service. Okay, you need to give something back in order to give, or in order to get that in your life. Okay, you need to give first in order to get. Okay, remember how we were even going over with the Science of Getting Rich through from Wallace D. Wattles. He even talks about that as providing service, okay, because it is thought which brings those opportunities to you. It is thought which helps you find those things that you want to happen in your life. Because when you're continuously thinking about money and obtaining that money consciousness, you're going to be given and brought opportunities to you which will help you obtain that money that you are looking for. We make money by making friends, and we enlarge our circle of friends by making money for them, by helping them, by being of service to them. The first law of success, then, is service, and this in turn is built on integrity and justice. Okay, remember what we learned about integrity, okay, and being one of the main pillars of prosperity, okay, the 8 Pillars of Prosperity by James Allen. Okay, having integrity, okay, because if you don't have this integrity, if you're not persistent in whatever it is you're doing, you're not going to be giving enough energies into whatever it is that you're trying to do. Remember, everything takes energy, okay, you must give energy in order to receive energy, okay, just like an athlete. Okay, an athlete needs to exert his energies in order to obtain more energy on that specific muscle in order to get stronger. Okay, likewise with you and anything that you're trying to build into your life, okay, whether it be physical, financial, business-wise, relationship-wise, okay, it takes your energy in order to bring that into your life, in order to build that around yourself. The man who is at least is not fair in his intention is simply ignorant. He has missed the fundamental law of all exchange. He is winning, but he is doomed to certain defeat. He cannot cheat the infinite. The law of compensation will demand of him an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, meaning there are no shortcuts. You cannot take any short step to riches. You can't steal from anybody. You can't commit any fraud. Okay, because if you do this, you're only sowing the whirlwind, and you will in turn reap the effects of all of that. Remember, we reap what we sow in actions, as in words, as in thoughts. The forces of life are volatile. They are composed of our thoughts and ideals, and these turn are molded into form. Our problem is to keep an open mind, to constantly reach out for the new, to recognize opportunity, to be interested in the race rather than the goal. For the pleasure is in the pursuit rather than in the possession. Remember what we've learned, the most important thing about this, about success. Okay, success is not a destination. Okay, it's a process. Okay, it's a journey. Okay, success is the progressive realization towards a worthy ideal. Now that is by Earl Nightingale, okay, an idea that an individual has, okay, a thought form that an individual may have of whatever it is that he wants to do, okay, or bring to pass in his life. You know, if you're watching this video right now, okay, and you who are watching this video, once you come to it, okay, you have the choice to make all of this you have in here a reality. You know, this idea you have of yourself, this idea that whatever it is that you want to do, all you need to do is do the things every single day that is necessary to make that thing happen in your life. Okay, remember, all there is here and now. Now is the only time there is. There is no better time to take action than now. Moving on, you can make a money magnet of yourself, but to do so you must first consider how you can make money for other people. If you have the necessary insight to perceive and utilize opportunities and favorable conditions and recognize values, you can put yourself in position to take advantage of them. But your greatest success will come as you are enabled to assist others. What benefits one must benefit all. A generous thought is filled with strength and vitality. A selfish thought contains the germ of dissolution. It will disintegrate and pass away. Great financiers are simply channels for the distribution of wealth. Enormous amounts come and go, but it would be as as dangerous to stop the outgo as the income. Both ends must remain open, and so our greatest success will come as we recognize that it is just as essential to give as to get. Now that's actually very cool. That is very cool, because no one ever becomes as successful as they are on their own. It takes others. It takes groups of people. It takes friends. It takes a group of minds focusing on a specific task in order to really create something big or worthwhile in this life. Because there's so many of us in this life. All of us are thinking on our own terms. All of us have our own ideas. Everybody has their own things that they want to create in this world. Okay, but those things that really are created are those things that are created from more than one person. Those things that you need a team. There is no I in team. You need a team to fulfill whatever it is that you're trying to do in your life. Like Apple, for example. I love using Apple as all my examples. And Steve Jobs, yes, he was a face of the company, but he wasn't the entire company. He wouldn't have been able to do anything that he did if he didn't have his team with him. It's what we want for ourselves, we want for all. That must be your attitude. Okay, where were we? If we recognize the omnipotent power that is the supply, that is the source of all supply, we will adjust our consciousness to this supply in such a way that it will constantly attract all that is necessary to itself, and we shall find that the more we give, the more we get. Giving in this sense implies service. The banker gives his money, the merchant gives his goods, the author gives his thought, the workman gives his skill. All have something to give, but the more they can give, the more they get, and the more they get, the more they are enabled to give. The financier gets much because he gives much. He thinks. He is seldom a man that lets anyone else do his thinking for him. He wants to know how results are to be secured. You must show him. When you can do this, he will furnish the means by which hundreds or thousands may profit, and in proportion as they are successful, he will be successful. Morgan, Rockefeller, Carnegie, and others did not get rich because they lost money for other people. On the contrary, it is because they made money for other people that they became the wealthiest men in the wealthiest country on the globe. The average person is entirely innocent of any deep thinking. He accepts the ideas of others and repeats them, in very much the same way as a parrot. This is readily seen when we understand the method which is used to form public opinion. And this docile attitude on the part of a large majority who seem perfectly willing to let a few persons do all their avenues of power and hold the millions of subjection. Creative thinking requires attention, holding your thoughts to whatever it is that you want to do in your life. The power of attention is called concentration. This power is directed by the will. Remember, the power of the will is being able to keep our thoughts focused on a specific thing. And for this reason, we must refuse to concentrate or think of anything except the things we desire. Many are constantly concentrating upon sorrow, loss, and discord of every kind. As thought is creative, it necessarily follows that this concentration inevitably leads to more loss, more sorrow, and more discord. And moving back to one of the beginning statements, and even in this book, he says, all loss being the result of a scattering consciousness. Remember how we just mentioned earlier, when you do these things that change your consciousness or put you in a different level of perceiving things, and then the next day when you're really feeling the effects of whatever it is that you were smoking or drinking, it affects you both mentally and physically, and this mental effect that it has its effect on your thinking. Remember, thought is a creative vibration, thinking being the real powerhouse behind anything, because Apple wouldn't have became Apple until it was first thought into being. Okay, and they would never have thought of Apple if they're doing things that kept their thoughts on a lower level, if they weren't trying to think bigger. Like all those successful people talk about, you have to think big, you have to think positive, you have to change the way you are thinking. These are the exact reasons why they are telling those specific things as to why we need to change the way we are thinking. On the other hand, when we meet with success, gain, or any other desirable condition, we naturally concentrate upon the effects of these things and thereby create more. And so it follows that much leads to more. Remember the law of attraction and even the law of cause and effect. Okay, that is a cause that you created, and that in turn will create another effect. And that effect will in turn create another cause, and that cause in turn will create another effect. That train of causation. How an understanding of this principle can be utilized in the business world is well told by an associate of mine, and I quote, "Spirit, whatever else it may or may not be, must be considered as the essence of consciousness, the substance of mind, the reality underlying thought. And as all ideas are phases of this activity of consciousness, mind, or thought, it follows that in spirit and in it alone is to be found the ultimate fact, the real thing or idea." End quote. This being admitted, does it not seem reasonable to hold that a true understanding of spirit and its laws of manifestation would be about the most, quote, practical, end quote, thing that a, quote, practical, end quote, person can hope to find? So, if you are a person that is practical, okay, remember what practical is, okay, is putting whatever this knowledge into practice, okay, because remember, knowledge is only potential power, okay, it is only until we take this knowledge and apply it within our own life, okay, learning how to apply these forces into our life. That is how we obtain wisdom, okay, knowing what to do and when to do it, okay, and about these thoughts, okay, for anybody, you know, the most practical thing to do, to practice, is to understand our spiritual forces, you know, our spiritual nature, you know, the quality of our thinking, you know, and how we can literally think ourselves into, you know, whatever it is that we want to do. Remember the story with Edwin C. Barnes. That is why Napoleon Hill decided to name his book the Think and Grow Rich, because you think big and you grow rich. You think rich and grow rich. Okay, the story of Edwin C. Barnes and how he thought his way into partnership with Edison. Okay, that's all he wanted. That's all he was thinking about. Okay, that's all that existed in his mind. Okay, and all of his mind forces he set in motion to move him in that specific direction. Okay, and he found a spot working in the Edison company, and he worked there for, I believe they was saying 5 years. And after 5 long years of desiring to be in partnership with Edison, he finally got his opportunity when Edison created the first Ediphone. Okay, when he created his Ediphone, nobody believed that it was going to sell. Nobody thought it was going to make any profit. But this guy Edwin C. Barnes seen it, and he saw his opportunity. He was like, you know what, I can make this stuff sell. I can sell it for you, Mr. Edison. So what happens? Edwin C. Barnes goes out there and he starts selling this Ediphone that Edison made. And that is how you got the what is that thing called? That embroider, that stamp on it, which said created by Edison and installed by Barnes. It's a very interesting story, and it's a very phenomenal read, you know, and it's a very, very, very wonderful concept. And just thinking that, and you know, test it out yourself. Just, you know, really focus on your own thoughts and think about when you're thinking about Think about whatever it is you're thinking about, and think about how it makes you feel, and then think about when you're thinking about something else and how that in turn will make you feel, okay? Or think about when you had a great time, you felt good. Or if you're thinking about a negative, something that wasn't so well, you start entering into this negative state, okay? And you start creating this negativity around you. Excuse me, sorry. Fortunately, we have the power to be in control of all of these forces. You have that power, but unfortunately, many of us aren't using it to our advantage. Many people are not aware of these type of forces they have within them. It's especially mainly with the younger generation as well. You see it with the younger generation, and it's amazing, because even today I find I have mainly older people congratulating me with the things I do, but people around my age, they're not exactly so much, and sometimes they either don't understand it, re-going over it. It might not just be where they're at in their life. Maybe they just don't. There's so many key elements. There's tons of different things that are put into play. But you definitely tell, the actions of a person on exactly wherever they are in their, in their mind. Anyway, moving on to this practicality, okay, putting all this that we're learning into practice. Okay, does it not seem certain that if the practical men of the world could but realize this fact, they would, quote, fall all over themselves, end quote, in getting to the place in which they might obtain such knowledge in spiritual things and laws? These men are not fools. They need only to grasp this fundamental fact in order to move in the direction of that which is the essence of all achievement. Let me give you a concrete example. I know a man in Chicago whom I had always considered to be quite materialistic. He had made several successes in life and also several failures. The last time I had a talk with him, he is practically, quote, down and out, end quote, as compared with his former business condition. It looked as if he had indeed reached, quote, the end of his rope, end quote, for he was well advanced into the stage of middle age, and new ideas came more slowly and less frequently to him than in former years. He said to me, in substance, quote, I know that all things that work out in business are all the result of thought. Any fool knows that. Just know, I seem to be short on thoughts and good ideas. But if this all-mind teaching is correct, it should be possible for the individual to attain a direct connection with infinite mind. And in infinite mind there must be possibility of all kinds of good ideas, which a man of my courage and experience could put to practical use in the business world, and make a big success thereof. It looks good to me, and I am going to look into it, end quote. Now it's very interesting how he's talking about this all mind, okay, this infinite mind, okay, the source from which every single one of us has came from, okay, because we've learned that we have an ability to connect with this mind through our subconscious mind, okay. It is through the subconscious, like he was talking about Shakespeare, okay. Shakespeare was able to perceive all of these things through his own subconscious, because the subconscious being the median between the universal mind and our own personal mind. It's very interesting concept, and he's talking about this all mind right now, that even me, like this guy, he's saying, yes, I know about these thoughts and how thoughts create conditions and effects, okay, but even my thinking alone wasn't big enough to create all that it was that I wanted to create. That's what this guy was saying. But he was able to attain a direct connection with infinite mind, okay, the mind of God, okay, this universal source. He tapped into this infinite intelligence, and he received his knowledge and wisdom directly from the source. Okay, all of us have that power, and we receive that through what is called intuition. Okay, it passes all the way through our reasoning faculties, and it's just something that is like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do. Okay, that's intuition. It's something that, it's like an answer that was given to you by our source. And he goes on in saying, okay, this was several years ago. The other day I had heard this man again, talking to a friend. I said, quote, "What has come of our old friend X?" And that with a question. Has he ever gotten on his feet again? End quote. The friend looked at me in amazement. Why? He said. Don't you know about X's great success? He is the big man in the, and that is a blank line right there, companies, naming a concern which has made a phenomenal success during the last 18 months, and it is now well known by reason of his advertisements from one end of the country to another, and also abroad. I know that part was a little bit confusing. That sentence was all in parentheses because it was talking about this company that he had great success, and it took him about 18 months to have that success. And he is the man who supplied the, quote, big idea for that concern. Why, he is about 500,000 to the good, and he is moving rapidly towards the 1,000,000 mark, all in the space of 18 months. I had not connected with this man with the enterprise mentioned, although I knew of the wonderful success of the company in question. Investigation has shown that the story is true and that the above stated facts are not exaggerated in the slightest. Now, what do you think of that? To me, it means that this man actually made the, quote, direct connection, end quote, with infinite mind, with spirit, and having found it, he set it to work for him. He, quote, used it in his business, end quote. He used the power of the universe, okay, within his own business, okay. He used the intelligence of our source, okay, and that's what all these successful businessmen talk about. Okay, if you look up Dr. Demartini, he's a huge successful person, and he talks about these natural laws that all these successful people they use in their lives. You know, they have these systems put into play so everything works for them, and the only work they have to do is that part in their work that they love to do. You know, everybody has their own part. Like we were saying earlier, you have to have a team in whatever it is that you're trying to build. Okay, where are we? Okay, we're on paragraph 19. Does this sound sacrilegious or blasphemous? I hope not. I do not mean it to be so. Take away the implication of personality or magnified human nature from the conception of the, quote, infinite, end quote, and you have left the conception of the infinite presence power, the quintessence of which is consciousness, in fact, at last, spirit. Okay, and even science of nowadays is finding that consciousness is the thing which underlies all other things. You know, even this rock, the most basic substance of this live rock that I am holding is made on consciousness. Okay, it's created from this consciousness substance, this source. And this man also, at the last, must be considered as a manifestation of spirit. There is nothing sacrilegious in the idea that he, being spirit, should so harmonize himself with his origin and source that he would be able to manifest at least a minor degree of this power. Okay, because remember, we all know this, that we are all created in the image and likeness of God, okay, and that image and likeness is in the image of spirit, okay, this mind, this intelligence, okay, like, I mean, we know if it wasn't for this intelligence, this body wouldn't even exist, okay, this physical entity or this physical aspect of our being wouldn't even be here without this spirit of who we are. Because remember, even our spiritual anatomy, our mind system, okay, our subtle body, our electromagnetic body, okay, it is this spirit of who we are. And the spirit is manifesting itself in all that it is through everything that this thing is. Remember, Corey's not my, Corey's my name, okay? I'm identified as being Corey, okay? That is how I'm able that is how people are able to know, you know, when or even I'm able to know when people call that name Corey, okay, that's me, okay? But Corey in general is not who I am. You know, it's your name, okay? It's not who you are. You know, you are the person behind that name. You are the spiritual being that has been given that name as an identity to identify yourself as that, and then other people are able to, you know, communicate with you in that way, okay, and they channel all that to you when they mention your name. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing. Okay, moving on. And all of us do this, more or less, when we use our minds in the direction of creative thought. This man did more. He went about it in an intensely practical manner. I have not consulted him about his method of procedure, though I intend doing so at the first opportunity. But he not only drew upon the infinite supply for the ideas which he needed and which formed the seed of his success, but that he also used the creative power of thought in building up for himself an idealistic pattern of that which he hoped to manifest in material form, adding hereto, changing, improving its detail from time to time, proceeding from the general outline to the finished detail. And remember how we've talked about creating this idea, okay, this idealistic patterns of which we can create of ourselves. Okay, remember with visualizing, okay, every thought we think creates impressions upon not only our mind, but every tissue within our body. Okay, your brain is literally creating and recreating itself according to the nature of whatever thought that it is that you're thinking. Okay, when you're thinking positive, okay, you're creating positive neural pathways, okay, and as you're creating these mental habits, okay, these neurons structure themselves in a way that where it becomes in such a way that you think it automatically. Remember auto-suggestion that we were talking about. Okay, you thinking that automatically, okay, that subconscious thing that we were talking about. Okay, and once it becomes an habitual way of thinking, that's how you know you're really starting to become that person that you're thinking about. You know, whenever all these thoughts that we are thinking are creating more and more circuits within our own brain, becoming more and more of who and what we are day in and day out, every second of the day. And he's saying creating that idealistic pattern of that which he hoped to manifest in material form. Okay, remember that power of thought that we have to over anything else. Okay, because this body is simply a manifestation of the vibrations of our mind, and thinking being a process of the mind, thinking itself being a creative vibration, whatever thoughts you think, moving you into that state of vibration, and you in turn move towards that pattern, okay, that energy that you have, or that you see yourself being within your own mind. That's why they always say that it's always important that you always see yourself the best that you can possibly be. You know, remember with the story of that lawyer in The Science of Being Great by Wallace D. Wattles, and he's talking about this idea, okay, the idea of the person that they have of themselves, this self-image of what this person believes themselves to be, okay, because we all we become what we think about. You know, and our beliefs are a big part of that which we are thinking. Okay, and our self-beliefs of who we are have a huge effect on the life that we are going to have within our own personal life. And improving the detail from time to time, proceeding from the general outline to the finished detail, having that clear mental image of how you see yourself to be. I judge this to be the facts of the case, not alone from my recollection of the conversation a few years ago, but also because I have found the same thing to be true in the cases of other prominent men who have made similar manifestations of creative thought. Those who may shrink from this idea of employing the infinite power to aid one in his work in the material world should remember that if the infinite objected in the least to such a procedure, the thing could never happen. The infinite is quite able to take care of itself. Quote, spirituality, end quote, is quite practical, very practical, intensely practical. It teaches that spirit is the real thing, the whole thing, and that matter is but plastic stuff which spirit is able to create, mold, manipulate, and fashion to its will. Spirituality is the most practical thing of the world, the only real and absolutely practical thing that there is, and thinking being the only activity that we possess as spiritual beings, because it is our thoughts of a specific thing which makes that thing it's so. Like this live rock, for example. This live rock is just something that is, but our thoughts of what this live rock is creates our personal perception of what we believe that live rock to be. It's amazing. Like, there's so many things, and it's all rooted from thought. These seeds. This week, concentrate on the fact that man is not a body with a spirit, but a spirit with a body, and that it is for this reason that his desires, It is for this reason that his desires are incapable of any permanent satisfaction in anything not spiritual. Money is therefore of no value except to bring about the conditions which we desire, and these conditions are necessarily harmonious. Harmonious conditions necessitate sufficient supply, so that if there appears to be any lack, we should realize that the idea or soul of money is service. And as this thought takes form, channels of supply will be opened, and you will have the satisfaction in knowing that spiritual methods are entirely practical. Now that is the end of this section, and now we're ending from a lovely quote by Francis Larimer Werner, and he says, "We have discovered that premeditated, orderly thinking for the purpose matures that purpose into fixed form, so that we may be absolutely sure of the result of our dynamic experiment." End quote. Now that is the end of part 23. Now we're just going to go over these questions that they have for part 23 study questions. So question 1, what is the first law of success? Okay, that law is of service. Okay, how may we be of the most service? Having an open mind, be interested in the race rather than the goal, in the pursuit rather than possession. So how may we be of the most service? Also being a part of whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, get into a field of where you're doing something you enjoy doing. If you're working at a job you don't like, you're just going to be thinking negatively about the job the whole time, and you're just going to be feeling bad the entire time about that thought, creating those mental habits within yourself. Okay, and every single day you're just thinking about how much you don't like your job. Okay, and those thoughts being the seeds which creates our reality. Okay, you're going to be perpetuating more of that in your life. Okay, remember, you have to rise above that condition, rise above whatever environment that you're in right now. Okay, you have that power to rise above it. Okay, and that power that you have is simply the power of thinking. What is the result of a selfish thought? It contains the germ of dissolution. What will our greatest success? How will our greatest success be achieved? By recognition of the fact that it is just as essential to give as it is to receive. 5. Why do financiers frequently meet with great success? Because they do their own thinking. 6. Why do the great majority in every country remain the docile and apparently willing tools of the few? Because they let the few do all their thinking for them. 7. What is the effect of concentrating upon sorrow and loss? More sorrow and more loss. 8. What is the effect of concentrating upon gain? More gain. Is this principle used in the business world? It is the only principle which is ever used or ever can be used. There is no other principle. The fact that it may be used unconsciously does not alter the situation. And those who are consciously aware of these forces are the ones doing the thinking for those who are not consciously aware of their own forces. And now, 10. What is the practical application of this principle? The fact that success is an effect, not a cause. And if we wish to secure the effect, we must ascertain the cause, or idea or thought, by which the effect is created. Finding that idea, that thought, or whatever it is that you want to do in your life, and moving in that direction. Now here's an end quote by Disraeli, and I quote, "Nurture your mind with great thoughts. To believe in the heroic makes heroes." Now end quote. Now I want to add a quote by another one. I believe it's by Channing. This was from The Science of Being Great as well, and he quotes that in order to be noble, you must think nobly, and to be courageous, we must think courageously. Thank you so much for making it through all of this with me, if by any chance you did. If you're still with me in this live video, thank you so much for joining. We just barely finished our book right now. And thank you so much for viewing this video, creator. Remember our daily affirmations that we are the lights of the world, you and me, and together we can make a difference in this world. All it takes is for you to start moving in the direction that you want to choose, because once you move in the direction where you want to be in, okay, you surround yourself with people that are like you. When you're surrounded by the people that are similar to how you are, you start creating that group, okay, and those group of friends, and then that environment begins to grow. Okay, remember how we were just talking about in our chapter that it is a team, that whatever it is that you want to do in your life, you have to have a team of people with the same interests as you, because as you're in that same environment, you're also not only growing yourself, but you're also with other people that are helping you grow as well. One thing I had mentioned in another one of my videos, and I'll go ahead and end this right there. Now, I was talking about friends and relationships, that we need friends, we need relationships. We need those people in our lives that we could talk to, that we can resonate with, not only to help us or make us remember that we're still sane, we're not just here going crazy upon our own thoughts, but also the fact that other people think that way too, and other people are going through the same thing. Communicate. That's all it takes, is a little bit of communication, and you'll never know how far you could really go with somebody. So, with all that being said, you guys, creator, I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here. And remember how we stick to one part the entire week. We're going to read, we're going to be on part 23 for the rest of this entire week, reading it immediately when we wake up and reading it again before we go to bed, because remember, it's repetition. We have to keep repeating it, because the more we think about whatever it is that we're reading, okay, that's how we really secure and learn about whatever it is that we're reading. Okay, we can't just read it and then put it down and then, oh, that was a good read. The ideas in there were great. No, you have to sit down and think about whatever it is that you're reading, so it becomes a part of who you are. Remember, we become what we think about most of the time. Okay, so with all that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for our next chapter. And see you on the other side of the galaxy.